Very good morning and welcome to Smart Men's Business. I'm Anji Barije. Today is the 3rd of November 2022, and of course we are just beginning the new month and quite a lot of prospects for this month. As a business person, probably there are those new plans that you want to spend on. And I also officially welcome you to this segment of SMB News Recap. Of course, as we go through the day's previous news stories that are making headlines into the world of business. And to start with, we start with Uganda joining the rest of the world to celebrate the World Cities Day that is scheduled on 15th. That's November 2022. This year's celebration will be driven towards embracing development of cities to a global perspective and themed under Act Local to Go Global. Let's have the details.
Launched a free electricity connection policy where customers were required to pay only 20,000 for inspection, and government caters for the remaining connection fees in a move aimed at increasing the number of power connections around the country. However, the free connection policy was first suspended in 2020 after the World Bank, which was the biggest funder, withdrew, citing corruption and failure to implement the project as had been agreed.
The economy is hard. Look at the soldiers.
The State Minister for Energy, Okasai Oplot, therefore has assured Ugandans that the project is back and that it's going to be effective next year.
And I would wish to assure the country
the involvement of Uganda in the World Cities Day celebrations has been publicly announced by the Ministry of Land, Housing and Urban Development in collaboration with the European Union under Greening Uganda initiative. The day intends to improve local conversation by recognizing possibilities and steps to address issues brought about by the fast global pace of urbanization. It also aims to promote and inspire action embracing sustainable urbanization. Urban population growth in Uganda is now expected to be 5.3% annually. Cities are recognized for being social and economic engines that should be purposefully used to develop the country.
urbanization presents significant opportunities and challenges at the same time. And here in Uganda, when we talk of urbanization, we're not only meaning of cities, we're not only meaning municipalities, town councils, but we're even meaning those trading centers in the rural areas which are bringing our populations to stay together overnight. Urbanization therefore presents significant opportunities and challenges at the same time. We are aware now that more than half of the world's population lives in the cities and the towns, and the number is growing every day. Cities are known as the engines of socio-economic drivers that should be intentionally leveraged to transform Uganda.
The European Union, in collaboration with other stakeholders, initiated a 3-year project that began in 2020 and will go on until 2023. By concentrating on green development, this attempts to promote sustainable development and inclusive of green growth in Uganda.
The point about that is we have an ambition now to move beyond plans. We have an ambition for a capital investment program of 394 million. USD. Now the point about that is we don't have that money. We have to ensure that we have bankable projects, proven bankable projects to attract capital investment. There's plenty of capital investment available, but there are so few or too few actual bankable projects on paper to be able to harness that potential investment.
Arua, Gulu, Mbale, Jinja, Masaka, Mbarara, and Fort Portal municipalities were elevated to the status of cities, while Hoima, Entebbe, Lira, Moroto, Nakasongola, Soroti, Kabale, and Wakiso municipalities will begin operations in the upcoming years. The phrase secondary cities is used to designate the new cities as being on par with Kampala, the country's capital, in terms of population size, administrative territory, and political, economic, or historic significance.
Uganda is to focus on city growth under the theme Act Local to Go Global. All right, away from that, now we head to the free power connection policy as the World Bank has agreed to extend US dollars, that's 638 million in funding towards scaling up electricity connections that's in Uganda. Okasaya Palot, the State Minister for Energy, claims that this financing will help advance the free connection policy. Let's have the details.
In 2018, government launched a free electricity connection policy where customers were required to pay only 20,000 for inspection, and government caters for the remaining connection fees in a move aimed at increasing the number of power connections around the country. However, the free connection policy was first suspended in 2020 after the World Bank, which was the biggest funder, withdrew, citing corruption and failure to implement the project as had been agreed.
The economy is hard. Look at the soldiers.
The State Minister for Energy, Okasai Oplot, therefore has assured Ugandans that the project is back and that it's going to be effective next year.
And I would wish to assure the country we are going to, a World Bank has actually provided us funding, $638 million, which is going to be, that project is going to be effective next year. And that project will enable us to actually have those who are unable to connect, to get connected to power.
People from the rural areas have long maintained that many small businesses cannot pay the existing connection price of 730,000 levied by power distributor Umeme.
Where we are, the poles are there, but there are not power in the houses. What is the problem? It's the high charge. So now government has put a lot of money there, but people are not able to connect the power.
Not only here, but everywhere.
Okasai always advises that in order to obtain electricity, a house must be worthy of receiving it, adding that bringing electricity to a grass-thatched house is quite risky. Speaking to the media today, therefore, he disclosed that such houses will also be connected thanks to an innovation.
I know there are so many households that are not in permanent structures. Some of them are in grass households. We shall reach even those people in grass-thatched huts through two ways. One, rooftop solar panels. They can supply electricity to whatever type of structure you have, whether you are in a grass-thatched hut or you are in a mabati house.
In 2017, power distributor company Umeme announced they had suspended implementation of the free connection project after running into areas that had not been paid by government for the connections they had so far made.
That's regarding the free power connection policy as the World Bank extended $638 million to Uganda, and this is aimed to start with starting next year, that is 2023. All right, now away from that, let's head to Nairobi. This time around, we are looking at the inland container depot within that city, as the inland container depots are dry ports with necessary tools that's for handling short-term storage and centralized cargo. The main objective of this dry port, which is run by the Kenya Ports Authority, is to offer services to traders, hence enabling international trade. 70% of the port's total transit goods come from Uganda, and indicating the two nations have close connections. Let's have this report as Naomi Mutumba reports in Nairobi.
This is the Nairobi Inland Depot, where goods arrive from Mombasa. It takes 6 hours for the train to arrive, and on average, 8 trains are received, each carrying over 864 containers.
The total transit figures from the port of Mombasa, Uganda constitute almost 70% of that traffic. So that by itself gives us an indication of how important Ugandans are. Basically our brothers, and there is a lot of trade between Kenya and Uganda, and that is a strong statement in terms of a very strong partnership between our country, Kenya and Uganda.
So the kind of transshipment we are talking about is not movement of wagons from one network to another one. It's just movement of the cargo. Whether it's containerized cargo or conventional cargo. You move it using an equipment, whether it's a reach stacker or a terminal tractor, you move it from one network, which is SGR, to MGR, so that it can move to onwards hinterland areas. And for specifically, the main transshipment that happens is for the transit cargo that goes all the way to Uganda. And this happens both in here, ICD Nairobi, and Naivasha ICD. And
this is the operational control room where trucks are monitored from. For a truck to come in, it only takes 10 seconds, and for a truck to go out, it takes 2 to 3 minutes. 2,000 trucks are cleared within 24 hours.
Okay, coming in is about 10 seconds. Going out, we are averaging about 2 to 3 minutes because of the other interventions that are there. On average, we do around, we have actually done over 2,000 trucks in 24 hours, just using these 2 gates. So you can see how fast.
Regional ESC, regional electronic cargo tracking system. The moment we finish facilitating from our end as URA here, it is automatically transmitted to KRA. Then they generate what we call a C2. Then they go ahead and arm the trucks with the e-seals. After arming, then they truck this cargo or the truck up to the border. When it is received by Uganda, then from there Uganda also continues to truck up to the destination.
ICDs are fully automated with a web system that enables Ugandans to know where the ship is instead of calling the port. These release 1,200 containers each day. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Nairobi, Kenya.
Very interesting insight right there from Naomi Mutumba regarding the Nairobi depot. All right, now let's travel to Karamoja. And this time around, we are looking at under spotlight regarding investments in that area. One of Uganda's traveled and all explored locations is the Karamoja region. And in order to entice investors in this area, the Ugandan government has made significant efforts to construct infrastructure like roads, schools, and electricity. As a result, Karamoja's leaders are urging additional investment in this region as a method to both address the residents' ongoing issues and boost national income. Let's have the details.
There are 9 districts in the Karamoja sub-region, which is located in northern Uganda, and these include Kabong, Kotido, Abim, Moroto, Napak, Amdat, Nabilatu, Karenga, and Nakapiripirit districts. With high rates of malnutrition and a disproportionately high 61% of its 1.6 million inhabitants living in extreme poverty, Karamoja is regarded as one of the world's poorest regions. 4 significant developing economies have been identified by the leaders as being present in Karamoja: agriculture, mineral development, tourism, and construction. Resources, especially food, are under pressure, and this leads to insecurity because people must raid each other's animals to survive. Over 900 individuals have died as a result of this food shortage. The largest issue in Karamoja is hunger, which calls for long-term investment solutions.
Karamoja has 27,000 square kilometers of land. This is an opportunity for all of us, especially us who are interested in agriculture. This land is not yet utilized to the fullest, and Karamoja as a region has only 1.4 million people. 1.4 million people occupying 10% of Uganda's land.
In Karamoja, you'll find Bagishu, you'll find Basoga, you'll find Iteso, you'll find Lango, you'll find Acholi, you'll find Bagandas doing business. Please come. But we are saying investments, yes, but benefits shared. Please don't come with a greedy and want to survive alone. You may not enjoy it.
The potential for profitable minerals like gold, copper, iron ore, rare earth elements, diamonds, and marble in Karamoja is also very high. The locals, however, believe that they do not profit from these minerals that are supplied to other regions of the nation. For instance, marble is taken to Tororo cement, and marble is also transferred to Jinja to produce tiles. If Karamoja could only build similar manufacturing enterprises, many young people would be qualified to work there, benefiting their livelihoods and the region's development.
Karamoja has a wealth of minerals. Over 57 minerals are in Karamoja, not yet fully tapped.
Mineral economy. Huge potential to invest in. You can't exhaust it. Employment through skilling, the way Good Leisure Farm is giving us skills, so that Karamoja can also join the business, the trade. So we are saying, help us to move from development aid to trade. Let's move really to business and commerce, because aid has not made us better.
According to David Pulkol, using the many minerals that Karamoja is endowed with will help encourage import substitution, boost manufacturing in the nation, and also foster codependence of the various sectors of the economy.
We are not putting enough resources, enough investment in Karamoja. Look at the oil, which is oozing out now between Kadam and Moroto Mountain. Kadam is Nakapiprit and Moroto, in the wild bushes there, opposite the oil thing in Turkana. That oil is ready to come out. It's not like the one of Albertine where it's waxy. You have to heat it to flow through the pipe. The one of Karamoja is ready, it is ready to flow. So why not actually come? So we thank God because now the president is now tarmacking the road going to that area, going to the border of Turkana. Okay, the Chinese are working on the border now. And the government has brought hydropower station for 132 kVA for industrial power. There's power which they're taking power to the sub-counties now. So since Adam left it, why does it take Uganda 60 years to make these investments? But because they thought we were useless, we are nothing, we were kept as a human zoo. So we are saying, let's change. Whether it is gold, you know how many metric tons of gold. You know 300 million metric tons of limestone. You have been building Uganda with this Hima cement with only how many reserves? With Tororo cement. Now Tororo has been getting for the last 15 years, 17 years, has been getting limestone from Karamoja. Now even the mineral called clinker, which Uganda is importing from South Africa for our cement industry, it is already in Karamoja. So, because no cement factory has got that mineral except Karamoja, clinker, you would stop importing. So that's why I'm saying that whether platinum, whether ruby, whether blue sapphires, whether it is uranium in Loleke, or rare earth minerals in Loyoro, in different parts, in Napak, rare earth minerals for making mobile phones, cobalt, copper, it's there. For making airplanes, those rare earth minerals, they are in Karamoja.
Karamoja also has a distinctive culture that, if given the encouragement and resources it needs to flourish, will draw numerous visits from all over the world.
Karamoja is the host of Chidepo National Park, but again the terrain, Mount Moroto, Mount Kadama, all the beautiful scenery that is in Karamoja is conducive for tourism. And Karamoja being a border region to Kenya, to South Sudan, gives us an opportunity to penetrate all those areas for trade.
Construction. African Hotel is just constructed. and they're doing a good thing. Many hotels are coming up. So there will be a lot of, as people invest in Karamoja, there will be a lot of potential in construction industry. And construction materials is there. Why not actually cut those marbles from Karamoja? Why not put an airplane, a big airport in Moroto, and you can even export these things direct without bringing to Entebbe? So this is the point we are making.
That's the leaders in Karamoja, of course, urging investors to invest in tourism, mineral development, and agriculture at the same time. And of course, that was a brief insight regarding of the possible investment opportunities in the Karamoja region. And now we come to the end of our SMB News Recap this morning as we review anticipatory action that's for climate change in Uganda. As Uganda is prone to a wide variety of calamities in different regions of the country. The majority of the known disasters are weather and climate related. As science has advanced, it has become possible to predict these events, giving disaster managers a window of opportunity to act in response to the forecast, of course, and thereby lessen or prevent the potential impact of expected disasters. Stakeholders are working, of course, with measures that can contain these disasters, but the government's commitment to disaster management is unwavering. Let's have the details.
Disaster and emergency management relies heavily on early warning and early action initiatives. Prediction, community involvement, response, and accompanying the communities on their journey throughout the process, first steps of the post-disaster phase. As far as budget allocations go, the Honorable Sarah Opendi has urged the government to give disaster management priority. This is because resources are scarce and the Ministry of Finance incurs additional costs when it distributes urgent financial donations to disaster-affected communities.
But we allocate funds also based on sometimes prioritization, because the executive comes up with what it feels are priorities, but also the resource envelope is limited. And as a result of that, we find that most of issues around climate change are not prioritized. And yet we all know that our economy is highly dependent on our natural resources.
As developing partners, the objective of the Uganda Red Cross is to increase information capacity and educate the population at large, because with these resources, catastrophe management, agriculture practices, increasing livelihoods, and more will be simple to stop.
All this happens at the community, not in Serena, not in our offices. It happens in the community. So to what extent are you preparing the communities? To what extent are you making these communities understand the information and they own it? But also, how do you build on their local information? They know they are not oblivious of some of these situations. So how do you reinforce the local knowledge, the traditional knowledge? So for me, that is the key game changer. And for us as Red Cross, that's where we put most of our emphasis. The beauty with eye action, put it in a context, is that when you invest in eye action and the disaster doesn't happen, you have still invested in building the capacity of that community, of the individuals. So you can't take it away. But when you wait to respond, it is more expensive. I was talking to my colleague here from World Food Program, maybe you can expand on this. The amount of money they have spent in Karamoja during this current emergency of giving food relief, if they had invested that in early action, maybe they would have spent a quarter of that money.
Government will support the anticipatory action plan according to the Ministry of Relief and Disaster Preparedness. This is because relying on the contingent budget funds is unrealistic.
This very approval of this plan by Parliament and have it in the budget. Because if you continue depending on the contingency budget funds, it won't be possible, because now other issues are coming in and also other priorities coming very fast. So you see issues of disasters go down and yet it's really affecting the economics and also the livelihoods of the people of Uganda. So we are trying our best to make sure that this plan comes on board.
The Uganda National Meteorology Association discussed its progress in closing the information gap and provide us with a projection for the coming few months.
Media, like district, local radio stations. Like recently, we were in southwestern Uganda and West Nile region, where we had teams from UNIMA really reaching out to these local radio stations. For example, we were in Kabale, Mbarara, Hoima, and Fort Potro for the team in western Uganda. We're going to have more rainfall within the southwestern Uganda and a general reduction in rainfall within the central and really very lowest rainfall within the northern parts of the country. That is West Nile, Acholi, and the Karamoja region expect to be a bit drier, and as compared to the central, which will also be a bit dry, but for western Uganda we expect to have some rains.
Government shouldn't be placed in charge of anticipatory action alone. Developing partners and local communities should also participate.
$12 billion Ugandan shillings have been allocated to ensure that they support disaster-related innovations. So that's quite a great window of opportunity for the innovators right there to explore the potentials to be in position to tap into this opportunity. All right, we've come to the end of the news recap this morning. Let's get into a short commercial break as SMB returns. Good morning.